In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a floor and a ceiling to your Sketchup model. The first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we can see our entire model and the space around it. So we're going to hit Zoom Extents right here. And then we're going to zoom out a little bit more and pan and orbit around so that we can see almost a plan view of our 3D model. Our next step is to create the floor outside of our model. And the reason we do this is that we don't have a floor that later on will merge with our walls. So when we go to move a wall or we go to move a floor, we're not seeing the situation that we call merge geometry and things start moving together when they're not supposed to. So that we're going to create this rectangle space outside of our model. We're going to make the rectangle a little bit bigger than our model. After we do that, we're going to go on the underside of the floor and we're going to push-pull it down. We do this because if we want to stretch the floor later, if we need to make it a little bit bigger, it's easy to do that using the push-pull tool. All right, our next step is to paint the floor whatever color we want it to be. So now we're going to go to Select in the Paint Bucket tools, and I'm just going to paint the floor a wood color. All right, so this next step is really important. You need to make this floor a component. If you don't, and then we move it into this model, it will merge with your walls, and those are the complications I discussed earlier, where it will merge with your walls and it will create this merge geometry. So what we're going to do is we are going to hit our selection arrow. We're going to triple click on the rectangle we just created. And the triple click will allow us to select all areas associated with the plane of the floor right here. After we do that, we're going to right click on our mouse, hit Make Component, and type in Floor. And then hit Create. Now I already created a floor earlier on when I was building this model, so it's asking me if I want to redefine it, so I'm just going to hit Yes. Now after we create the floor, we can then move it into place. And it's one component, so we just have to click on it once. And we're going to pick a point within our space to move the floor. So now I'm going to hit the Move button, and I'm going to choose this point right here. So I'm going to click on the endpoint right there, and then click on my wall endpoint right there. And then I'm going to hit Zoom Extents, and I'm going to evaluate and make sure the flooring does go all the way through the entire space. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. You make it a little bit bigger to make sure it's going to cover the entire space. But if we find that we need to move this into the space a little bit more, that's no big deal. We just click on the floor, right click and hit Edit Component. And then we can come in and use the Push-Pull tool to move that floor back. And I'm just going to leave it extended just a little bit from this area here. Now if we wanted to change the color of the floor, we can do that too. So later on you decide, you know what, I really want a lighter floor in this space. You can click on the floor, then right click, hit Edit Component, and then you can change the floor color. If the scale of the floor does not look correct, then you can hit Edit and you can adjust the scale down here, and I'm going to change it to 6 feet so that it looks a little bit more realistic. So that is how you add a floor in SketchUp. Now when I add a ceiling to the space, I usually, instead of creating a rectangle off to the side again, I usually just copy the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my selection arrow, and I'm going to select the floor component. And then to copy, I hit Move, and then I tap Control. And so then I'm going to come on the side here so I can see that, and I'm going to make sure I hit my up arrow so it goes directly up, and I'm going to raise it for now above the wall. The reason that we're going to raise it above the top of the wall is so that we can edit this component and create a new component, and it won't merge with the walls. So now this is a copy of this component, but I want to create it into, the ceiling is a copy of the floor component, but now I want to create it make it its own component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple click on this, and this is why this is really important that you separate these two for now. I'm going to triple click on it. Actually, I'm just going to select it and then right click and hit explode. Now I'm going to triple click on it, hit make component, and change it to ceiling. And then hit create. Now if I want to change any part of this ceiling, I can do that. First, let's move it into place. So I'm going to hit move, and I'm going to click this endpoint, the bottom endpoint of the ceiling, and then I'm going to click the edge of this wall. And then I'm going to hit zoom extents and kind of move around to make sure that my ceiling is connected to everything else in my space. Now, if I wanted to change the color of the ceiling, don't worry about what it looks like on top unless you want to change that. But if I wanted to change the color of the ceiling in the interior, I would click on the component I just created, hit right click and edit component. And then I could go and select a color. I'm going to select something dramatic so that we can see the difference. And then you can paint your ceiling the color you want it to be. Now, most likely we would probably want to paint it white, but that was kind of hard to see the difference. So those are just a few important steps when creating ceilings and walls. It's just really important that you create them and make them their own components so that they do not merge with any other components and the walls in your 3D model.